open and put it on. Do not panic. Take the long strips, turn them with the back, and remember to tie in front. Very easy. You just roll here twice. One, and again, keep it tight. Once you're done at the bottom, you go on top and do the same. Take the short ones. Roll and roll again. Keep it tight. After this section, the captain may say abandon the ship. If you hear that call, abandon the ship, keep on jumping either side of this vessel. As we all know, there will be no other alternative there. With your life jacket on, you'll never drown. You'll keep on floating outside there. Within few minutes, we will come back and take you home safe and sound. If you don't see me coming, remember you still got your whistle. Keep on blowing and call for help. I want to go home. Someone is coming to take you home. If you feel lonely while floating, remember you still got your tow line. You may hook up with the one you love. Keep on floating together. We're still going to save you. It's going to take us 45 minutes to get to Robben Island. During that time, please do not smoke anywhere on board this vessel until you get there. And in case you feel seasick, ask for a seasickness bag. We will provide one for you. Again, welcome to Cape Town and Merry Christmas.
We were hoping for a no boat today. Here we are. So we're very happy and privileged for the weather, and also, ladies and gentlemen, we're very happy and privileged that you sit so nice and comfortable. Now, except that the island was a place of banishment for political prisoners over there, many, many other things happen on this island too. And on our journey now around the island for the prison, I'm going to touch on all these little stories. The makeup of Robben Island over hundreds and hundreds, way back 300 years ago. It was smallpox that hit South Africa. Millions died 300 years ago, smallpox. 250 years ago, leprosy. 50 years ago in South Africa, polio. But the one devastating one today in Africa, other than malaria. AIDS. They say the year 2020. Now that's 10 years from now. More people shall die in Africa than before because of the pandemic AIDS. Extremely. The man who started the revolution in this country in 1960. The man the old government feared very much, if not the most. His name, Robert Sobukwe. Robert Sobukwe was not kept with all the other prisoners. He was kept so alone in that little house. The cages around the house, those were dark cannons. But the dark cannons were built after he started. It was only that single house on the entire block of the land. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to settle down here roughly 10 minutes. Once you have the grip of this man's history, you will understand broader Robben Island history, South African politics at large. In the days of the struggle for freedom, we had two mainstream resistance, revolutionary movements. The one is the ANC, where Mr. Mandela is a member of. South Africa is the other one. The PAC, Pan-Africanist Congress, where this man, Sobukwe, was the leader. Today this is a guest house and a conference center. Whenever Mr. Mandela comes back to the island, He doesn't go back to his cold little lonely cell in the prison. No, he has a nice cushion sleep over here. For your information, Mr. Mandela came back to Robben Island 14 times. After he left the island in 1982, to another prison for 6 years, another one for 2 years, but Robben Island, he left 1982 and came back 14 times. His last visit back to the island, 6 years ago, just to light the Olympic torch for us. And at the age of 86, but remember, he's 92 now. 6 years ago, at the age of 86, Mr. Mandela said, "Farewell, Robben Island. I am not coming back here again." And indeed, for him and for us, it was a very, very sad day for him to bid the island eventually goodbye. But he came back 14 times. But here Mr. Mandela's 5th visit back to the island, 12 years ago. Here Mr. Mandela came to the island. And with him came Mrs. Hillary Clinton, the then First Lady of America. But unfortunately, Mr. Bill Clinton couldn't come with him. Apparently, he was too busy in the White House.
Yeah, got to? Yeah. Hey? Good, thanks.
We all know the war ended in 1945. They only finished the building of those guns, 1947. They never fired one single shot from this island. The old African slogan. In Africa we say, in Switzerland, they have watches. But in Africa, we have time. You never make an appointment with an African sitting over there. An African will tell you, "I'll see you just now." Just now can easily mean 3 weeks. But the worst lot out of them all, the Indian. A God-forsaken race when it comes to time. I personally don't make any dealings with either of the two. Ladies and gentlemen, my main work on this island is I capture the stories for the next generations to come. That's my main work. But my other main work on the island, I am taking out all the high-profile dignitaries, statesmen from right around the world. The Mandelas and them when they come to the island, my responsibility is to take them around the island. A friend from the USA. 2 years ago, I had the honor to have taken out your newly elected President Obama. When he was still a senator 2 years ago, he came to this Robben Island. I took him around. And I remember very well, when we came to this spot here, I said, "Mr. Obama, I'm going to ask you a very, very big favor here today. I want you to have a second look at that 1947 cannon. And the favor I'm now asking, when you go back to the USA, please don't tell Bush we have weapons of mass destruction."
Please don't tell me.
South African. Mr. Mandela worked in this one 13 long years. Now what was very bad working this one was a reflection of the brightness of the lime upon their eyes. And they were not allowed dark glass, except the last 2 years. Many of them turned snow blind, half blind. And whenever it's windy on the island, then the lime dust, the chemicals, happen to settle on the skin, affect the eyeballs, inhale it very irritable. That is why up to today, when you take a photograph of Mr. Mandela, you are not allowed to use the flash of your camera, because the gland that supplied the tear to his eye dried up in the process. What was most frustrating working here all know in the very olden days they used the lime to make paint and cement. During Mr. Mandela's time, there was no real function, purpose, demand for the lime. So one day they will scoop up the limestone from one angle, dump it on the other. The next day just pick it up and take it back home again. It was more a form of punishment and to keep them busy. But ladies and gentlemen, it is in this quarry where they help one another to further their education. Remember early in the program I mentioned to you, one of the many fights against the old government, education for the black man. In this country those was almost zero. So many of them came down here that could not even read or write. But when they left the island, after 10 years, 20, remember some when they left, would leave this island with 2 or 3 university degrees. Those of them who were teachers, the fortunate ones, lawyers, journalists, and arms, helped the education of the less fortunate, because with world pleasure, especially International Red Cross Switzerland, with tremendous pressure the old government, forced the old government by international law to allow education for the prisoners on this island. So after 1966, prisoners could further their education via correspondence schools, universities South Africa, and in particular University London. Now University London played a meaningful role in the education of the prisoners on this island. Ladies and gentlemen, even the guards came down for education, and only white guards. Now those of you who are not from South Africa, you must have heard of our political buzzword in this country, and that is reconciliation. And for the sake of those who are not from South Africa, the bottom line definition of the word reconciliation in our language is forgiveness and do not take revenge. Where did it start? In the quarry. When the all white guards came down for education, Mr. Mandela had this approach. Mr. Mandela would tell his fellow inmates, let us not fight these young white guards, because they too are all victims of a vicious society. Then Mr. Mandela would rather say, let us rather bring them down, bring them closer to our chest, and it worked. And with the help of the political prisoners, the guards too, when they left the island, would leave the island with 2 or 3 university degrees. Now this is what we claim, the starting point of reconciliation in this country. Forgiveness and do not take revenge. But my friend from the USA, gentlemen, whenever Mr. Mandela comes back to the island, he would always tell us and say, the word reconciliation, forgiveness and do not take revenge, is not his word. He borrowed that word from another great civil rights leader from America, none other than, you say, brother, Martin Luther King. But if you in turn study the doctrines and philosophy of Martin Luther King, he in turn would say, no, that's not his word either. He borrowed that word from another great politician that was arrested in South Africa. Maybe not in prison on the island, but in prison on the mainland. You take another guess. Thank you, gentlemen. None other than Mahatma Gandhi. My young friend from India. I've expected the answer quicker. Now, why have you disappointed me here today?
I gave the answer, you didn't hear.
Today, my president, the unemployment figure in South Africa is very high. 43% of this nation is unemployed. Privatization, globalization, the AIDS pandemic, and so many factors. I've already introduced the bus driver to his involvement in the struggle. But once you go into the prison now, don't be shocked to find an ex-political prisoner taking through that process. Relive his pain, his sadness over and over again. Not because he liked doing it, job opportunity, But for that we say to you, thank you very, very much for coming from afar, to come and listen to our story. But more so, my friend, to be part of job creation for us on this island. For that we say to you, thank you very, very much for visiting Robben Island. Finally, my friend, one very last favor. You are not coming back to this bus. You're going to take a walk from the prison to the harbour. So when you leave your seat, please take a double check that you don't leave anything behind. Especially your camera bags. We have hundreds of cameras. If you really want to do us a favor, rather leave your cameras here. That me and my Indian friends can sell at the corner shop. I say to you, thank you very, very, very much.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Welcome to Robben Island Maximum Prison. My name is Jama, J-A-M-A, Jama. I was a prisoner here in Robben Island from 1977 to 1983. So in other words, then I served 5 years in Robben Island. Where we are now, ladies and gentlemen, we are in a cell. Okay. There are two types of cells. There are single cells and there are big cells. And then when we go to the cells, we were given 2 mats like this to sleep on. And when we were sleeping on these mats and 5 brackets with no pillow, no sheets of clothes. So when we were sleeping on these mats, then a cell like this one accommodated 30 people. And then in 1978, with the help of the International Committee of the Red Cross, we were given beds like those at the back. When we were sleeping on those beds, then a cell like this one accommodated 60 people. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now in B section. B section is one of those single cell sections, and our leaders were kept in this section. When I'm talking about our leaders, then I'm talking about Mr. Mandela, Mr. Robben Island, Mr. Walter Sisulu, and the others. They were kept in this section. This used to be just one section, but in 1977, 1978, the authorities identified a group of people from the group that arrived in 1977, people they regarded as leaders or being influential. And so they took them away from those big cells and they put them in this other part of this section. And so now they divided this section into 2. So this was A section and this was B section. And the other part was C section. C section was a solitary confinement section, which means if somebody did something wrong or broke the rules of the prison, then that person will be taken to C section for punishment. But people in these 2 sections, A and B, were not brought here because of punishment. These were normal sections, but it's only that they were single cells. Okay. And so then they built these walls because they didn't want these people to mix. Okay. And then the green that one would see, this used to be Mr. Mandela's garden. Mr. Mandela had a garden. He applied to have a garden, and then he was given permission. So this used to be his garden.